feature for salaries.
I mean, it's a need, then it's a need.
Yeah.
Two people use it a week. Is it just easier for you to move books?
Here it comes. I'm sorry.
Staff.
Yeah. That's what I keep telling myself.
I wish they had talked to me about that. Interesting.
No, we'll get into a lively discussion. How long until we get out of here?
Yep, they'll do that. They'll put the date.
Who's taking minutes tonight? Oh, Betsy, you got it? You're the scribe?
No. Change.
Well, thank you, because
Yeah, thank you. Because you wouldn't want,
can't read my-
you wouldn't want me doing it, because mine's all hen scratch.
Oh, mine's the same. I'm watching it afterwards.
Yeah, there you go. That's actually a great idea.
Good evening, and welcome to the June 6, 2017 Finance Committee meeting. We have a joint meeting with the Selectmen, and we've invited School Committee as well. We have the agenda will be, first up will be our audit review from the town's auditors, and then a joint meeting discussion with the Selectmen on year-end transfers. And then we've asked for an update on the procurement facility projects. The main ones are the field maintenance, building assessment, as well as alumni and the fire station. And then we have sort of the standard agenda items of public input, member updates, and then my favorite article tonight, board reorganization, appointment for the finance member to the personnel board, minutes which we don't have any tonight because Maryland's in Iceland, and we will adjourn the meeting at that point. Bonnie, if you'd like to introduce.
Sure. I'd like to introduce Dick Hingston. He's our auditor, and he's here to give you a summary of the fiscal 2016 audit.
Okay. And Selectmen have a copy of the...
Yes, everybody's received
Great.
copies of everything.
Hi, thanks for letting us do the audit again this year. I know I say it every year, but the town has a very strong finance team from top to bottom. There's procedures in place to reconcile the cash, the receivables, and the debt in a timely manner every month. And a lot of times we talk about reconciling in internal controls and think of that as an audit process. But really what it does is ensure that the financial information that you're getting and reviewing and managing the town with every month is accurate. So when cash is reconciled at the end of the month, it means that the expenditure report that you're looking at has all the warrants in it. And if you're looking at that and you're 6 months through the year and you want to know if you've got 50% of your expenditures in, it has to have all your warrants in. You can't be missing one because you didn't reconcile cash. And the same thing on the revenue side. When you're looking at the budget versus actual revenues, you can be assured that all the deposits are recorded because the receivables are being reconciled and the cash is reconciled. So as much as I like to say it's to get a good audit grade or good audit marks, but it's really for your own best interest to manage the town that those procedures are in place, and it's worthwhile to have a strong team. Our management letter includes sometimes includes recommendations and sometimes informational items. This one has both. And the first comment is more of an informational item. The federal government issued something called the Uniform Guidance recently, and it changed the procurement rules for federal expenditures beginning in fiscal year 18 for you. In the past, you've just dealt with the Procurement Act, Massachusetts Procurement Act, which said that any expenditures between $10,000 and $50,000 you needed to get quotes on, and anything above that you had to go out to bid. The federal rules are different. It's only for federal expenditures. It's not if you're spending regular money, but if you're making federal grant expenditures, the thresholds are $3,500, but then you don't, it's all the way up to $150,000. So you have quotes between those two numbers for federal. But since you're in Massachusetts, you still have to comply with both. So what's at issue here is the federal expenditures between $3,500 and $10,000. Because once you hit $10,000, Massachusetts kicks in. Yeah, so it's just something that I think it's important that you notify all your grant managers and that are making federal expenditures, fiscal 18's coming up, that it's $3,500. And it's a little bit different, too, because they say $3,500 per expended disbursement, whereas in Massachusetts, if you bought something for $3,500 at the beginning of the year, $3,500 in December, and $3,500 in March, they say that you add those up and you're over $10,500 if it's the same item. It's not the same for federal. They don't have that piling on effect. I mean, they don't want you to split expenditures, but it's not like that. So there's also some requirements to document. You're supposed to have a written document that includes the internal controls that you have over federal grants. And there's certain items that must be included in there. I enumerated about 4 or 5 of them in there. And it has to do with conflict of interest for the employee, organizational conflict of interest has to be addressed, and that has to be in your written internal control document. There's also...
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sure. You go ahead, because you probably have the same question I have.
I mean, we have policies in place for conflict of interest and all that already. So it has to be restated.
No, as long as you have those,
We have
those in your document,
Okay.
then you're fine.
Okay.
Yeah, so we need to review our current document and make sure that it's in compliance with the federal regulations.
Right.
So there might be some tweaking of language that
Okay,
we
so-
have.
And it only has to say for federal expenditures. The things
Okay.
that are different,
Okay.
you can say, and for federal expenditures, this,
Okay.
that's different, because you don't have, they can't make you change your expenditure
fine,
policy.
okay.
Okay.
Do you have a ballpark of how much grant money from the federal government we have in a given year?
It's primarily on the school side, and it's not,
I'm guessing around 500,000.
I would say, yeah, that or south.
Yeah.
But and so then it would come down to how much work this is, it's how many grants and,
Right.
Yeah.
right?
And
Right.
much of it's payroll
Right, right.
related expenditures,
Okay.
so it's not necessarily purchasing of supplies or services.
Okay, so
So
we
it
would
doesn't-
do a
okay.
town municipal policy, which the schools would then have to abide by.
Correct, yeah.
And it sounds like, I mean, that's what you're saying.
Yes, yeah, yeah. And I'm sure the school's aware of it, too, because
They are.
the Mass Business Managers, there's a MASBO meeting, and they're very much
Okay.
involved in this stuff, so. There's also a certain other language that has to be included in contracts above varying dollar thresholds. It's something, if you have a quote for $10,000 for some construction or something like that, there's certain language that has to be in them. I put a couple of links in here that I think that are good resources. One takes us right to the uniform guidance, and I don't even think that they print the uniform guidance. Uniform guidance includes every single federal grant out there, and they don't even recommend printing because they're always updating it. And these thresholds of 3,500 and 150,000, those are tied to an inflation number, so next year that's going to go up. And so it's going to be 3,700 and 150. So they're changing targets all the time. So maybe when you're doing your internal control document, you just don't put a number in, you would reference it to the uniform guidance instead, so you're not always making the change. But the only thing I want to repeat is, I think it's important to make sure that the staff is aware of these changes.
Is this updated as the new policies come in, or is this a yearly update on this?
On the uniform guidance, it's like every branch of the federal government updated any day of the week, so the Department of Education could say, this grant, we came up with some new requirements for this, and they even drop some sometimes.
Yeah.
Like the ARA grants, there was the federal money for the ARA money, those kind of are dropping off, so it changes
They'll
weekly.
tweet out the changes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Two in the morning?
Okay, sorry about that. Go ahead. I couldn't let that one go.
The next comment has to do with the ambulance accounts receivable. The town has a number of different accounts receivable, real estate, motor vehicle, personal property, And there's internal control structure built in that, yes, that segregates certain duties. There's the assessors bill and abate, the collectors collect the money and post to the customer accounts and maintains the detail accounts, and Bonnie will record all that from information and post it into the ledger, and then reconcile the general ledger to the collector's accounts receivable. Those are internal controls processes that are built to segregate functions and provide a good series of checks and balances. So what would happen is, if Dick Hingston was the collector and collected some money and get cash and recorded the money against the customer's account, but took the money, but didn't turn it over and didn't report it in, then there'd be a problem, because when Bonnie went to reconcile with the collectors, it wouldn't agree. So, but if the collector had access to the ledger, then they could record just make a journal entry in the ledger too, and it could be caught, but it would be a lot more difficult to be caught. So that's why they segregate those functions. For the ambulance accounts receivable, you've kind of shifted a lot of responsibilities over to a third-party vendor. They do the billing, they do the writing off, they do the collecting, and they send you reports that give you summary data of what's going on. So I kind of look at it, and I think it's almost like you've transferred the risk out of your hands, like you wouldn't, something you wouldn't probably do here, but you've transferred the risk over there. So I mean, almost everybody I do have clients has a third-party biller do their ambulance. So I think it's and they're good. So I'm not suggesting that you do anything different. I think that you should get something about their internal controls and try to get information about their internal controls. And also, the summary data, I just think it just kind of leaves too much room for our it's just not enough information. So I think that you should get the detailed data. Instead of a summary of who paid for a month, you can get a detailed listing. It doesn't have to be printed. It can be a report that you get online, so you're not getting piles of paper. But as long as you have something that supports the summary data, so that you can look at something and see who's getting written off, and maybe those aren't the people that you want getting written off. So I just think it's important to find out what their internal controls are and to
A little
get
more visibility.
Yeah.
Would we expect in our current process and using the third party that, I mean, is there some check that at least we know we made these runs, and so we expect billing to be coming in these places? Because that's the kind of the piece, like, how do we even know that the right people are getting billed, right?
Honor system.
Expand on that a little?
Or do you want
I
to take it to
get
another
summary
time? I don't mean
reports.
to.
No, we've kind of gone round and round with the billing company to try to get some clarification, and it's been difficult.
This is the old billing company, or,
This is a new one?
This is the current billing company.
Okay,
So,
which is the old one, is in our
next-
terminology.
A year from July, we will be switching to a private billing company
Okay.
when we do the transfer to, with the medic program.
I'm not coastal.
And we will be, it should become
more transparent?
more transparent, per se.
We were with the company that we're talking to now, Coastal, back in 2007, and we had all the detailed data. We had all of the write-offs, the detail behind the write-offs, the action items that they took. It was very transparent, so I would anticipate that you
Get that
have
again.
that visibility again.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good.
The next comment has to...
Excuse me.
Sure.
Selectman or Mike, if you guys have got any questions, please chime in, okay? Okay.
The next comment has to do with some journal entries. We noted some instances where the school department requested journal entries to correct or move expenditures from one place to another. And those expenditures were originally charged through the warrant process. Some of them were moving from the general fund to the school choice funds. And I'm sure the corrections were correct, were proper, but I just think that if something gets approved and charged through the warrant process and signed by the school committee, that in order to move it someplace, particularly to another fund, it should require the same type of authorization. It can take different formats. One could be just they could sign the journal entry request that the school business manager sends over, or they could do something called a zero balance warrant, where they put in a negative amount in a warrant and then a positive amount, so it comes out to zero, and they sign it just like they would a normal warrant. The reason I think that it's important is because I think that if a school committee member looked at, say, school choice at the beginning of the year and sees there's $800,000 in it, and has some plans for that, and has been signing warrants throughout the year and watching and making sure there's nothing coming out of the school choice, and then at the end of the year says, okay, what's my school choice balance? I have something I want to do with this $800,000, and now there's $600,000 in it, and they could be saying, well, what's going on? I didn't sign one warrant all year. I've been watching, and there's nothing that moved. We didn't charge anything. So how did this happen? So I just think it's a better for visibility for the school committee and for everybody to have it go. If you're moving, I think if you're staying within the general fund, if it's going from the special education to regular education, I don't really think that that's as much needs as much signatories, because it's a bottom line budget in the general fund.
Right.
But particularly when it's moving between funds, when it was charged to a grant, now it's being charged to general fund, or vice versa, or a circuit breaker, or any of those. I think it should.
Have you discussed this with the schools, or?
I've spoken to the school business manager about it.
Okay.
And we
Mike,
saw, the
yeah.
school committee saw it, and we concurred that we asked the administration, the school administration, to make sure they put the proper process in place. So I don't know exactly what it'll be, but it'll be akin to one of those two suggestions that we made. And whoever has signing authority on the warrants will see it when it happens,
Yeah,
going forward.
okay, I think it's
Yeah,
really
that's
best
fine.
interest. Okay.
Yep, thank you.
Great. Thanks, Mike.
The next comment has to do with Chapter 90. This is just an accounting entry. There was an oversight. You get an allotment every year for Chapter 90 receivable, and the entry wasn't made. We noted it because we get a confirmation from the Mass Highway every year, and when we went to reconcile, it was off. So this is...
Bonnie told me she did that on purpose.
Yeah,
so
it's
you
an
find
anomaly.
something and feel
It's an
good.
anomaly to hear, so...
See if you find it.
I hated writing it up, but so...
Bit of a smoke test.
That's it for the management letter this year. But what we do, too, is we put in the status of the prior year's comment. We like to do this to show you whether or not the prior year's comments have been implemented or not. And everything that was in the prior year's management letter has been implemented or is in the process of being implemented. And that's typical, yeah, whenever we make a recommendation. Unless they tell me they don't agree with it, then, and that's fine, too. They generally implement, so. I can be happy to go through as much of the financial statements as anybody wants. Or if somebody wants to sit down at another time, I'll go through it as much. But I'd just at least like to tell you that the financial statements, the first place Moody's goes to, or Standard & Poor's goes to, or any reader, they look at the opinion letter, and they go to paragraph 6. And if paragraph 6 says, in our opinion, the financial statements fairly present, then everything else is boilerplate language in all the other paragraphs. And so they look at that, then they just start reading the financial statements. And there's also a report in the back that's on internal control and compliance with laws and regulations. And if there's any findings of material nature, then we have to report those in there. And you've got a clean report on that, too. So if I can go through this as much as you want. I know you have other things. And does anybody have any questions, or?
Dick, would you mind just going over the student activity account changes that are for next
Yeah.
year, just so that,
Well, we're going to be doing there's an audit program for doing student activity audits. And in the past, the audit program was about a 2 or 3 page audit program. It's just been updated recently, and they want more. It places a real heavy emphasis on policies, documenting policies and procedures. So we've been doing them recently, and every place we go, there's not the policies, documented policies and procedures to the extent that they want now. So we've been putting a lead letter in to all our reports that we issue now, and saying, if it's applicable, that had, that there's a lot of findings, but a majority of them related to the documentations are the result of the new audit program. Had the audit been done under the previous rules, there would have been minimal, if that's the case, if there's been minimal, because the couple that we have got, that's what the case is. So we don't feel it's quite fair to have all these findings in something when it just came up fairly recently. So there are a lot of requirements on documentation over student activities that they want
So,
policies.
yeah. So again, has this been reviewed with at least the business manager at the schools, or is this?
He knows about the new policies. I've talked to him about that we're going to be doing this,
Okay.
so he
So-
knows that we're going to be doing
So
the student
Mike,
activities.
I just get a clarification, when you say student activities funds, are you strictly student activities funds, or would it be encompassing of athletic fees, or, like, we're gonna start charging a new fee because we have a bring your own device, policy going into place?
Well, it's the things that are the student in the student activity accounts under the
Okay.
principals, not stuff that you are in the general ledger and
Okay.
Bonnie's ledger. It's the
Okay.
things that the principal has responsibility
All
for,
right.
true student
Okay,
activities.
very good,
Yeah.
all right, thank you. We'll follow up with the business manager, and we
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Yeah.
We'll try to get our act in order prior to.
Well,
the-
it's relatively new
Yeah.
on all the stuff that we're wanting, and the guidelines, they want you to accept every single new student activity,
Right.
and even accept them all en masse at the beginning of each year, and so there's just a lot of things that weren't in effect before that they're just saying. So I kind of look at it as we're going to be like a jump-off point for you. There's going to be
Okay.
recommendations on what you should be starting to implement.
Okay, thank you.
but is it likely that we'd be able to at least put in sort of a preliminary procedure so that
I would
at
like
least
to
you
think
could?
so, but I will talk to the administration and find out. But
Okay.
that would be, our goal would be to say, well, let's head off as much of this as possible so
Right.
that we're not responding to findings that we've anticipated, thank you to the, to the advance notice, that we've executed on it prior and not subsequent to. So
Okay.
we'll
So-
strive for that.
So maybe Bonnie and Mark,
Yeah, Steve Mark. yeah.
Steve Mark could spearhead that.
Yeah.
And if they need to loop back with the auditor
Yeah,
for input, that might be
yeah,
great. Okay.
thank you.
Thanks for the heads up. That's good.
Does anybody want to go through any of this?
No, I think,
But if anybody wants, but if anybody wants to sit down sometimes and they have any interest in it, I'll be glad to sit down with you for an hour. And
I think Joe really wanted to do it.
yeah, Joe.
if you're having trouble sleeping.
What's your numbers?
So long as the
Thank
numbers
you
are
very
right.
much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Dick.
Thank you. Dick started off by saying that we have a strong financial management
You
team.
do.
And Dick knows how hard we work to make sure that we are able to make that statement now.
Yep.
Because we could set it a year ago. So
Yep.
thanks for all your help,
Okay.
too.
Great. Thank you, Dick. Okay, we have the second activity on the agenda is a joint meeting with selectmen and to look at year-end transfer requests or reserve fund transfer requests. We have 4 items on the list. Let's just sort of start at the top and head down. Bonnie, you want to walk us through the Conservation Commission
Sure.
wages?
The way that I've prepared the info is to suggest that we do year-end transfers for these, just to leave your reserve fund intact in case there are other issues that come up by the June 30th deadline. So my suggested motions here indicate year-end transfers.
Okay,
Require
and
both the
just for
selectmen.
clarification, a year-end transfer requires a vote of the selectmen and the finance committee.
Right.
A reserve fund transfer only requires a vote of the finance committee. So the main reason, other than the audit, to have the joint meeting posted is these year-end transfers. So that's what we'll be doing here. Okay.
So the first one listed is for Conservation Commission wages in the amount of $2,758.08. The reason behind that is, you might remember a few years ago, back in 2015, the conservation agent's position was open and budgeted for 35 hours a week to be filled. We hired Amy Green, who came in back then, and she did such a bang-up job that she was able to do the job in 20 hours a week instead of the 35 that was budgeted. So she turned those wages back to the town. We budgeted for 20 hours a week in the next year. This year, we've had a lot of permit activity, a lot of inspections that need to be done with all of the housing that's going on, and the commercial development. So I noticed that her wages were tracking a little bit ahead. We did an analysis, and in order to get through the end of the year, we need to have a transfer in this amount, which would average her wages to about 21 and a quarter per week instead of 20.
Okay.
I think that we ought to look at this again for the fall town meeting
Right,
to
that was
see if we
the
need
next
to adjust
question,
it
to
for
make
that.
sure we're covered for 18.
It's budgeted for 20 for the fall, I mean, for this fiscal year, but I think we might need to go to 22 or something in the fall. But again, the activity level's up, you know, Amy's done a great job, in my opinion, and the hours are still less than the 35 that was originally budgeted, so.
Okay, any questions from anybody else, or?
No, I think you answered the question I had. I was more concerned about going forward.
Yeah.
Make sure we've got it covered so we don't have to do this
On
next
the-
year.
So hopefully we'll, if we need it, we'll do it in November and not have a year-end issue coming up next year. So, is there an officer of the chair of the selectmen, I guess is?
We have the clerk.
Well, there you go. So if you guys want to vote, I'll ask for a motion to support from the Finance Committee, and you do the same, and then we'll, can I have a motion to support the Conservation Commission wages transfer, year-end transfer of $2,758.08?
So moved.
Second.
Second, I have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay, it's unanimous.
Moved and seconded.
We did
All in
that.
favor?
Except, I mean, doing it one by one like this, we're saying we want to increase that, but we haven't said where it's really coming from necessarily.
Yeah, if you want me to, I can make the suggestion amendment, $2,758.08 from
Right, it's just you and
420
me.
gasoline expenses to 171 conservation.
So the guys that shut up.
I'll do the next one for you.
Technically, do we have to revote that?
Thought about it.
I'm going to look at the library trustees one next, for the.
Yep, just take them in order, yep.
You would think, go over it.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Amy.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you, James.
No, but now Sarah, take it off.
As amended.
Yeah, right.
We probably should do that for,
Okay,
just for the record.
we had an amendment to the motion that basically says where the money comes from, and the money is coming from,
Gasoline.
okay, and going to the Conservation Commission wages. So a motion to approve as amended.
So moved.
Second? Okay, I have a motion to approve in a second. All in favor? Aye. Okay, great.
The next one,
Do you want
Do
to
they need
get the
the selectmen
selectmen's,
need to
what their
do
vote
this?
is?
I thought, did you vote already?
Yeah, it's 3-0, and we did it the right way.
Okay.
Not fair to
Oh,
give it
sorry.
We're shooting blind here, come on.
I usually put it up on the big screen.
Right, you know, we can't afford that, only the selectmen can afford that. Okay, and the next one is a year-end transfer requested by the library trustees for the Shattuck Street elevator modifications, the tune of $3,214. Can the library speak to that?
So, as you may know, the library elevator, currently to use it, you need either a key. You need a key to use it to access the first floor and the third floor. So we have patrons that come in that have disabilities or moms with strollers that have to figure out a way to get the key from the second floor to use the key on the first floor, and it's a big thing. So ever since town meeting, we've heard from the community that they'd like to see us do something about the elevator sooner rather than later. So we obtained a quote from Associated Elevator for $3,214. And what they would do is they would change the keys to buttons so that it would work like any other elevator. But the library would be able to put the switch on the library side so that when we're not open, the doors don't open on the library side. Because the whole reason we had the keys in the first place was people would enter the library when we weren't open from the town side. Because the town and the library have different hours, so it was a security issue. So this solution really takes care of both helping our ADA and moms with strollers or parents with strollers, and it saves on our security.
So now you can go from town hall into the elevator, into the library, or from the library into the elevator to town hall,
Right.
when both are open.
When both are open.
When both are open, will that be the case on the first and the third floor?
Yes.
So you can go across,
Yes.
and the third floor is the kids' room, right? Are you guys comfortable that kids pushing a button can go in and out, or somebody could go into the kids' play area from the third floor? It's just, with all the craziness in the world, I'm just
Yeah, we
asking
don't-
the question here.
We don't feel that's gonna be an issue. The parents are pretty good at keeping an eye on their kids, and so are the library staff. So we don't really feel like that will cause an issue for them.
The elevator, we looked at doing something more complicated on the elevator, but it doesn't really support it. It would require a lot more expense, right, to upgrade a lot more of the software and whatever the library and the elevator is. We didn't feel.
And no concern with just materials leaving without having somebody want, things like that? I mean, if you guys are good with it, I'm just, questions that come to mind, it's like
Do you have
more
a
access.
security camera there on that?
There's one by the back door.
There are others,
I don't want to know.
but we won't tell you where they are.
We have one on the third.
They're in public places.
Any other questions?
Could we just, yeah, go ahead.
Question on the opposite side, when you're open on Saturdays, will people have access to the town hall side?
They already do, the way it is now.
And that's what you're trying to close up, would this resolve that problem or not?
No.
Probably not, right?
No.
Someone can break into town hall through the library on a Saturday?
They can enter the town hall side on Saturday. And right now, when you're not.
That's the way it's always been.
Yeah, that's how it's always.
Whether it's right or wrong,
I
but
mean, yeah, but, that's why everybody makes sure they lock their doors, so
Right.
the access is only the hallway.
Yeah.
I'd like to see it be able to close that off too, but you're right, that doesn't support it, so. And that's what he was talking about when he made the quote. Say the controls are not capable to allow access or close off both entrances, so.
okay, any other questions or comments?
I'm honestly surprised that for this kind of money, this wasn't done long ago.
So it's only been in the past, couple of years that we've actually had the back door open more frequently.
Okay.
Before it was not a regular entrance.
Okay,
So that's why.
that's where it changed things.
Yeah. Along those same lines, we're trying to get a quote to make the back door a powered door, so it'll be more ADA, but it's been,
Yeah, Neshoba Security just came today. We asked them a few weeks ago, but they just came this morning. So we don't have a quote on that yet.
Okay.
so we will be back asking for money for that.
Fall town meeting. No more transfers. For non-emergencies.
Okay, so there are no more questions, concerns on this?
Just the concern that we're doing a $3,200 repair on we're not really resolving all the problems that we're talking, the security side, that's all. So it's kind of a Band-Aid on a problem that's going to need to probably be relooked at in a few months, or as soon as we decide that this, hopefully nothing happens and the child doesn't get pulled away, or, whatever, theft or anything, so, but.
I guess my only concern is that you mentioned this is kind of new, opening up the back door the last couple of years, because if we got any problems, could a problem surface if it becomes more public knowledge that you can walk in through the back and then have access to pretty much all of Town Hall? It certainly solves your problem, which seems pretty easy to do, but are we opening up another can of worms by allowing greater access to the library and then opening up basically Town Hall to anybody that wants to roam around the halls? That would be my only concern about it. We should kind of address it systemically, where we're addressing your problem with this, but also address somehow, lock off the rest of Town Hall so we don't have the chance of somebody roaming
Yeah,
around.
we'd certainly prefer that Town Hall not be accessed, be able to be accessed when Town Hall is closed. That's the idea with calling it closed, I think.
If I could, Fred, just to add, one thing, I'm here late a lot of nights, and that back staircase is not lit. So if somebody's walking down from third floor to first, I know I have to turn my flashlight on. So now we haven't had accessibility to that. We may have to look at putting some kind of motion lights to make sure that it's safe to access that staircase.
Well, are some of those kinds of issues coming up with the space use study that's going on, or is
I don't think the lights would be part of that.
Okay.
We can look at that on our own.
Okay.
I
Need that
think
be part
we
of
were
it.
looking at addressing some of the security issues in this building in the next capital plan, because we're still on a key system, which God knows who has keys to this building. We should have a card access system like.
Yeah, we're looking at a code access system like the schools.
Maybe adjust the elevator.
Right.
The other part of this.
So there's probably also other issues with accessing the town hall on Saturdays when Park and Rec is open, right? When they have programs, people could get in that direction
Yeah.
too, and there's no shut off for the rest of the building from that side, right?
Well, not necessarily, could people go around the corner and go up through the stairwell? It's possible, but we do have staff that's there, and really the only programming or the only people that are there for programs.
Now, did I hear you say that there is a way to fix past the walk-through issue, but it was more expensive, or that with the elevator we have, it's just not doable?
We were looking for ways to maybe have more control without the switch, but that would have been more expensive. So this was the least expensive option. I'm not sure if there was a way to close it off on this side, but I'm not sure about that.
Probably a whole new panel, a different panel altogether.
Yeah, this would, okay. All right, any other questions?
So just,
Yep.
like today, so if the library's open, everything else in town hall is closed, like this door back here, that's open now?
I think that door is usually locked.
Okay.
But like I came down and came through the elevator. When I
Right.
was coming from work, from the library side.
So the door down by the Cooper room will be open because the library is open?
No, I think she's talking about the.
No,
No, I ain't talking about that
no,
way.
this
No, I ain't
is-
talking about by the Cooper room.
Oh, the Cooper room? Yeah, that door is open right now.
But if town hall were closed and the library was open, would that be locked, would that be open?
That'd be open.
And then theoretically, somebody could come just through the stacks?
Yeah, but they can do that now anyway.
But they can't go through on the first floor.
If they get the key, they can.
But somebody has to
All they
give
have
them
to
a
do is go
key.
through the second floor and then hit the one button for this side. And
No,
come
I
in.
understand the second
Yeah.
floor, but I'm just saying to Mark's point, just from a security standpoint, theoretically, somebody could come into the first floor. After we've fixed the elevators, they could then walk into the first floor of this building. I mean, the center section of this building. Yes. Okay. So that is a bit of a risk. Okay. Okay, anything else?
We can look at if we could shut off, put a shut off at the same time, or what the additional cost would be to shut off this side, but then you're gonna get into a weird, because sometimes, I know people use the library to access town hall after hours when there's meetings in like 312 and all the doors are locked. The only way the people know to get in is through the library.
That's true.
So,
Or through Park and Rec.
So it's gonna be a weird situation if you're trying to determine when to turn off,
Turn on or turn off?
that side, and who's responsible for doing it and things like that. I mean, it's not impossible, it's just,
So,
These stairwells that go to some of these places too, though, aren't there? I mean, some of the stuff you can do through, or not, I'm trying to think.
you have to get into this building first, and then,
right. Well, all of the offices have locks on them. Right. So, okay. Alrighty.
One more question. So you're talking about going to a keyless system, town hall? Do you have any idea when that's gonna happen?
We're going to request it in this.
It'll be in the budget, in the
So it'll be
FY19.
this month, okay?
upcoming one.
It's gonna be your problem.
Yeah, thanks.
The issue that just came up in his last comment, that's true, that there have been several times that I've come here for a meeting
You can't get.
over the years, that there's absolutely no door unlocked. There's no way to get into the building. And people are wandering around. And if you go to a keyless, then, so it's gotta be some way to ensure that people can get in and out for meetings after hours.
It would be a card access system, which would be great because
We track it.
the
Then we know
board
who's
members
coming
that
in.
are elected, we give new cards to. And if, there's changes to the boards, we just deactivate the cards. And
When we do that, are we gonna
And you
turn off
know,
the
you have to
visual
track
access?
who actually did.
It's like a hotel.
Yeah.
the problem is you can't have public meetings, the public can't get to the meeting.
Yeah, we're gonna have
yes, but what would happen is if there was going to be a FINCOM meeting, whoever came in would then need to access the system to open the doors for the public. But the staff could leave the building, whenever staff leaves from 4 to, 7, lock the facility, and then it could be open for the meetings later,
Instead of leaving it open.
leaving it wide open, yeah.
Okay. That pretty well wrap it up.
So I can
Okay,
have
so
those.
where is this money coming from?
So the motion would be to take $2,214 from the gasoline expense account.
The gas.
and
As a
put it
short
toward
term,
library
short term, we gotta look at the
Okay.
business, absolutely. So who made the motion?
So can I have a motion to transfer from the gas account $3,214 and transfer it to the library trustees for the elevator modifications?
So moved.
Second.
Moved in second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None?
Go 3-0.
3-0.
3-0, all right.
Okay, the next one is a recurring one, and I've tried to address this in the 2018 budget, but I might be a little short. It's public building expenses. My best estimate is that we're going to need about $20,000 to close out this fiscal year.
And what is driving it?
The public building expenses covers this building, the whole Shattuck Street facility, the cemetery building, the police station, the fire station, any cemetery building, any of the public facilities. So we cover the electricity, any of the repairs and maintenance. We've had some extraordinary expenses the last few years for HVAC system changes. We had a failure at the police station just this last year that cost about $7,000 or $8,000. And we've had some plumbing issues in this building that Bill Cole confessed to with the facilities. So I'm looking at $20,000 to close out this year. Just to put it in context, we transferred $11,000 and $12,000 in the last 2 previous years. I did add $10,000 to this for next year. I'm going to monitor that and see where we land at the end of this year.
What is the size of the budget that we're adding 20,000 to?
$420,000 is the...
So this is about 5%. So it's not like it's way out of whack. It's not, this would be 105%, so, okay.
And my suggestion is that this would come out of the short-term interest expenses, or account 720. Because of our rate environment that we're in, we've been able to save a little bit of money there.
Okay. Any questions from anybody out there?
If we've had respective year-end transfers of 10, what did you say, 11, 12, and?
11 and 12 in the last 2 years.
20 this year?
20 is estimated for this year.
Okay, and 20 estimated this year. And so you're anticipating adding 10 to that budget next year?
I already
We already
included that
did.
for next year, so we may be okay.
I mean, or 10,000 short.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to understand.
Building's aging.
Any other questions from your board? Okay. Okay, I'll entertain a motion to transfer $20,000 from short-term.
I'm sorry, there's just one question. What if we don't vote this in?
That I will stop paying electric bills, and then we'll have to go to town meeting to pay those of prior years. I'll have to stop paying something, once we run out of money.
She'll shut her lights off in the meeting. But good question. That's fair.
We have to meet
Is it
at,
really optional, right?
we have to meet at the pub. I mean, that's.
Pay me now or pay me later.
Right.
Just stop drawing that check for all your hard work.
So moved, what you said.
And finish.
All righty.
Finish. Yeah.
So have a second?
Did you finish your motion? I didn't hear you
I
finish.
thought
it.
I did.
I thought you got cut off.
Okay, I have a motion to transfer from short-term interest, $20,000 to transfer to the public buildings account.
So moved.
So moved, second?
Second.
Okay, it's moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
3-0.
3-0. Great.
Last
Boy,
one.
we should invite you three guys and leave the coast and delay the more often. We're actually getting something done.
We can cause all kinds of mischief.
Great.
Selectmen's meetings could be much shorter.
All
So the
right.
last one we have is for some field maintenance repairs. And I know, I think Chris is here. Yes, he is. Chris Stoddard was a great help to try and put a number on this, but we were asked to look at the condition of the fields at the high school. So this just covers the high school facility fields. And come up with a plan to bring them up to some state of playability for this coming year. And with alumni being anticipated open for the fall, there's going to be some changes in the sports programming. And I don't know, Chris, if you want to speak to this better, you want me to keep going, or?
No, go ahead. I'll interrupt you if I need to.
So with lacrosse being one of the sports that's played up at the high school, I don't know if you've had the opportunity to look at the conditions of the field, but it's a mud pit at this point. There's no grass around the goal areas, and that no grass area widens every year. And because the fields aren't able to rest, there's no chance to regenerate any growth. With lacrosse going down to alumni on the turf field, it's anticipated that these repairs will not be destroyed in the next season. So it's kind of a combination of bringing it back up to a playable surface. And then there is also a budget in here for the maintenance for this coming fiscal year for fertilizer, about $10,000, fertilizer and lime. So this $32,500 that's requested is to bring those fields up to a playable condition for this fiscal year with the maintenance for this fiscal year. Going forward, we need to come up with, this plan for maintenance to be included in the field needs assessment study or identified
Gee,
in
what a
there.
concept. Whoever thought of that? How many times have we asked for that?
It's coming.
Years.
Yeah, so's Christmas.
And my suggestion on this one is if the Finance Committee and the Board of Selectmen are amenable to this, I would take this out of the retiree and employee benefit expenses. We've got a little bit of funding left in the unemployment line and the health insurance because we budget for so many additional employees as an allowance and for open enrollment period, and we're okay there for this fiscal year. This will pretty much wipe that out.
I have a couple of questions. So when is this maintenance going to take place?
As soon as possible. The contractor is on the state bid list, so we can hire them immediately. It'll happen after the end of spring sports, which is
Next week.
Any day now.
any day.
Yeah, it'll be-
This week.
Literally any
Does
Friday.
that
Yeah,
mean
so-
they're putting down sod? I'm sorry.
No,
Didn't mean to interrupt.
June 16th is officially the last official date.
Okay,
And
and
so
so
we
are
would
the,
try to get in there,
are the fields gonna be rested for the rest of this year and even into the fall? Or you plan on using them in the fall?
no, so we've decided, the field that needs the most rest is the lacrosse field. We had a conversation out on the field, and we're going to not use that field at all the rest of this year or next spring. So it'll actually get about 18 months of rest on that one.
Okay.
The other fields are not in nearly as bad a shape, so they will get about an 8-week to 10-week rest, which will be sufficient, because all we're doing on the other ones is just top dressing them and doing some minor seeding. So those shouldn't be as big of an issue, because we're not trying to regrow a huge spot, we're just kind of, it's just gonna be spot growing. The part of the practice football field that they're gonna try to do is they're gonna try to shift the practice over, so they're not on the big dead spot now, and hopefully we can get that to grow, and if they can stay off of that, then we'll get a full 15 or 16 months of growth out of that spot.
Follow-up to that, what's the watering plan?
Uh,
I mean, are we gonna end up with a situation like we did, I think was it last year, Mike, where we didn't water the fields for a while in the summer?
We watered them, we just didn't water them sufficient to the drought conditions that we encountered.
I was informed
Yeah, I
that
know
we
we're
have
good now.
free reign to water to a
As needed.
sufficient amount.
Okay.
Luckily, we haven't had to obviously water yet, so,
We have that budgeted in the school budget.
Okay.
yeah, so we'll be watering the correct quantity.
Well, I mean, not to be a naysayer here, but what bothers me is we're 4 weeks after a town meeting. We've asked for this for the last year, and 4 weeks after town meeting, we're looking to transfer $32,000. I mean, I don't understand why you guys couldn't have got your act together before this. I mean, it's really frustrating. I'm not saying don't do it, but it's crazy.
From a school
So
committee
30,000.
perspective, one thing to keep in mind is that this was a negotiated agreement between programs. We opened up another section of the fields at the high school, made available to youth lacrosse this season, with the agreement between the parties that by doing so, we would advocate to get this problem taken care of. So from the school committee perspective, we did more than we've done in the past in terms of making that facility available to youth pro sports. Because in the past, what we've always done is tried to make it work for everybody on shared facilities. And it's not the neglect or the, us not understanding what was happening. It was that we are trying to put 1,000 hours of programming on fields that can only sustain less than 1,000 hours.
But Mike, you just.
So, I mean, this is the problem. We pushed it and maxed it out, and now we're trying to rectify it. We have the new facility coming online that is going to alleviate a lot of these problems. As a matter of fact,
But
really.
4 weeks ago, if we could have taken this to town meeting 4 weeks ago, it would have been a no-brainer to get this and probably the other $60,000 that you're going to be looking for drained. It would have been a no-brainer. But now we're sort of going around the back door for it, and it's just really frustrating. And
I agree. I mean, it was 2 town meetings ago, we asked if we're gonna do this, we're gonna do alumni, we need the full plan for all the fields, how are we gonna do this? And nothing happened. And we still went forward with alumni anyway, but here we are. Like I said, for a month after town meetings. It's $30,000 coming out of employee and retiree benefits. If I saw extra money there, I think that should go to the OPEB, thank you. I just echo what Fred said. I mean, I'm not saying it shouldn't be done, it sounds like a good plan, all that stuff, but I don't understand the timing. And the expectation that you can just come and get $30,000 for, it's not an emergency, it's planned, it could have been done before, it's not there. It doesn't seem fair to all the other people in town that could probably also be asking for $30,000 and aren't doing it, for various things.
I just had a question. So before this year, What, last year before, where did this money come from? Did this happen last year, the year
We
before?
never did anything, we never repaired
So
it,
what-
it's just it's gotten worse every
So
year.
this is a progressive thing that's happened since, what, the high school's been there? We haven't had a,
I think
Since
primarily since
lacrosse.
lacrosse.
Since
did.
lacrosse.
Lacrosse is a
Lacrosse
It's
become
boys
lacrosse.
lacrosse.
right, I knew the boys always
It's
played.
boys
Okay.
lacrosse.
So we should have addressed, which should have been addressed.
Absolutely.
The day
We've
field, that field was.
The day lacrosse got started.
I just wanted to get the history so I understood.
Yeah, we've just, it's just that this past year, we've been, at practically every other meeting we've had, where we've had a joint meeting with schools and the selectmen, we've been saying that we need to get the study done. Tell us what needs to be done, let's get it done. And, yeah, you did it good, thank you, we can do it. But it is kind of untimely in that we just got to it, well, I'm just reiterating what she just said.
So,
When is the field study going to be done?
So officially, the contract should be signed this week, and the date is August 25th to have the report completed.
So that would be in time if there were any projects that needed to be done in the spring, we could potentially bring it to November town meeting. I mean, I'm just,
Yeah, October 10th.
The October.
October 30th, I'm sorry, yeah.
The warrant would close on September 22nd, and so that.
So there's a little time if there was a project that popped out of that we wanted to try to bring forward.
It seems to me this also goes along with the other ask that was part of the whole alumni thing, in addition to the total field for the towns, what we're gonna do with those. The other part was who's gonna really own this, right? We have this, memorandum of this understanding, and there's still nobody that really owns this. Like even now, like, so whose fault, not even to say fault, but who do you go to say this should have been done sooner? There's like 5 people. There needs to be some ownership. Who owns this big picture thing that drives this stuff and actually owns it? And is getting the different players together as needed. But we still don't have that.
The first meeting to revisit the MOA and come up with one that addresses those issues, among other things, will be next week.
But, again, we talked about this 2 town meetings ago, that was gonna happen. And now we're gonna have the first meeting next week.
Yeah, but we haven't had the field needs assessment done, and we didn't know that Alumni Field was gonna get approved until it got approved at town meeting. I mean, that's, what could we have done prior to those things being decided? We would have been revisiting it yet again.
No, I think even under the current situation, that we still should have had somebody that was in charge, because we still have these same problems
We
with
have people that are in charge. There are people that are in charge of field
people,
maintenance. There
but
are,
not
yeah.
a person. That's
You're
the,
never gonna have one person in charge. Why would you ever do that? That's not a good management.
Well, and the
practice,
money,
have one person in charge.
The money side of it's what we, it's where is that gonna rest, right? That's where we wanna get. That's what we mean by responsibility, the people.
who's writing the check?
This transfer would go to the
Well, that's why
highway.
we're here.
Right, and that's with my understanding, this is gonna end up with the highway. If that's the way it is, that can be addressed future years.
My other question is what's the, I mean, we're gonna go through this needs assessment, but do we think that this is gonna be needed again in the near future? Or based on your experience, what do you think the
So
next
this is.
3 years look like
Yeah,
for
so,
maintenance?
so this is gonna get you to a level of, I'll call playability again. There's gonna be some dollar number, most likely not this high of a dollar number, that you would have to spend every year on maintenance to keep that at a playable level. But I don't have an answer for that number yet. That's something that I'm gonna work with the.
And to reiterate, whatever number that would be will be based in large part on the amount and type of traffic you have on any particular field. The fact that we're removing boys lacrosse from this field means that it'll be less than if we had left boys lacrosse there after doing this intervention. So that's the good news. It's going to be less than it would have been if we hadn't brought this synthetic field online.
Right.
But to the point where that field will need to get assessed and know what the maintenance is, but so will Corper, and so will Whitcomb, in the infield of the track. All the places that we play youth sports will have that done as part of this assessment. And then we'll know what we should be doing, and then we'll make determinations on what we're gonna do.
Yeah, so there's some trial and error here we're gonna see over the next couple of years,
Right,
and
and-
that's not, you know,
and what's-
not favorable to us,
Well-
but that's reality.
And what does lacrosse do to the synthetic field
If
compared
that's-
to just running soccer and football?
Like I said,
You know,
it's-
The information that we got during the alumni field renovation advisory committee meetings is that lacrosse is no more impactful on a synthetic turf field than football or soccer are, assuming that you do make the right decisions about fiber and infill prior. And there were debates about how long you want the fiber, it depends on, you know, what kind of track you're trying to have. If a field hockey, one that was strictly field hockey would have a much smaller, so we've already had those discussions. I mean, so the facility that we've designed and we've made decisions on will last 10 to 12 years with no problem, based on the amount of traffic that we're looking at. And we told the people that came in to give us this information, this is what we are envisioning for usage, and they're like, yeah, you're gonna be fine.
So
Guarantee
one-
on that? This would
Yeah,
sign
the
it?
guarantee are all the synthetic turf fields that exist all around us that play lacrosse on them, and you go there year after year, and they're great. Until they wear out like any field would do.
I don't think that's consistent information based on talking to different people, but.
So one more question, this $30,000, $32,000 transfer, where's it going to again?
Highway, under
It's
their
going,
parks
it's gonna
budget.
go under there, okay. Just wanna make sure I got
Good
that.
question.
If I may, a couple other questions. Is highway providing, does this include highway's labor as well, or is
This-
highway providing the labor outside of this?
I think it was in the way.
This is all contracted work.
It's all contracted?
Yeah, the highway department doesn't have the equipment nor the time to do this involved in a maintenance project.
But later on, they'd be responsible for just a typical maintenance of.
Yes, except for typically what you would supposed to do is deep tine aeration and top dressing is usually an annual thing. We don't have the equipment to do
Yeah.
that, so that would have to usually be contracted out. But the typical fertilization and seeding and stuff, that can be done in-house.
And another question in terms of long-term maintenance, watering, fertilizer mixes, all that's fairly specialized. Do we have the in-house technical expertise to actually take care of these once we bring them to a playable condition, or are we?
So what we do is we actually take soil samples and bring them down to, I think we use Site 1 out of Chelmsford. Their soil, they test it, they're where we purchase all our supplies. So they test the soils and they make recommendations on what kind of material, fertilization and application rates and stuff like that. And the guy who's been doing it for us has been with us for quite a while. He's fairly knowledgeable.
Concerned that if we intend to maintain these fields, you know, even with alumni field, keeping a lot of players off, some additional turf management expertise may be useful going forward to make sure that we're making the right decisions, because we're still gonna be on an edge.
So when we hire.
And that could be a wise investment.
Yeah, when we hire the contractor to do the aeration and the top dressing, they are sports turf specialists who we actually are going through. So they made most of the recommendations on it. They made all of them, really. So we kind of lean on them to help us make a decision that makes sense.
And part of the field needs assessment in the scope, it has what we need to do to maintain the fields for the future. So they would give us suggestions on if there's training that the highway staff would need, and all of those extra pieces that will ensure that we do have successful playable services in the future.
And I think that's what I'm getting at, that if we need to make sure that someone at Highway has the training to identify specific needs on specific fields, that could be short money compared to what it costs to make repairs.
No, absolutely.
I mean, that's all well and true, and the better job we do, we're all gonna be better off for it. But the thing to keep in mind is that for decades, the field maintenance program that we had in place, such as it was sufficient to the purpose in the sense that nobody felt that their children were playing on unsafe or unplayable surfaces. You gotta remember, the vast majority of what's happening is small children playing recreational sports. We're not trying to create a pitch that you would have a, Major League Soccer, European soccer, or even a collegiate level, or even an interscholastic. We do have some fields we want to play interscholastic, but the majority of our fields are for young children to play recreationally. It was with the introduction of lacrosse that we found ourselves in a crisis situation, and alumni will alleviate that. So we should make a good analysis, and then we can make our weighted decisions on, ideally, we would spend this much. We might very well be able to do 65 or 70% of that, and we could maybe even live with 40 to 50% of that on these fields, and watch the ones where the older, stronger kids play more impactful sports. That's where the ones you want to be able to make a, so it's not going to be a blanket plan for all the fields. You have to weight it across the activity that you have. And as I said, in decades before, we were fine for what we were trying to do.
Okay, we've gone this to death?
I think so.
Okay.
Move the question.
What is the amount?
32,500.
32.5?
And it's coming from Department 194, employee and retiree.
From employee benefits, retiree benefits.
All those in favor?
Okay, can I have a motion to transfer $32,500 from retiree and employee benefit expense to the Highway Department Field Maintenance Fund? Have a motion, have a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay. 3-2. Okay, do you have it?
3-2?
3-2, 3-0, okay.
Thank you.
Okay,
That's it.
thank you for putting this together, Chris. I think it's long overdue.
And we're all about maintaining assets that the town has, whether they're fields or buildings or anything else. We don't want to keep creating more assets and not maintaining them. It just doesn't make any sense, so.
Good. Okay. Next on the agenda is facility and project updates. Anthony, were you going to give us a brief update on, or not? Who's going to?
Just they wanted to know where the field maintenance assessment and the building needs assessment were in the queue.
Well, field needs, you heard from Alicia. Chris has an update with the space needs. He's got some new information today.
Yeah, so, we've selected Alan Lee, we entered into negotiations with him. They and our town council have gone back and forth a few times over the contract. Today I talked to Jenny from town council, and she has been in touch with him directly. There was a few issues, specifically was, what did I say they were? One was copyright issues.
Ownership of the plans.
The ownership of the plans, and there was how, if we move to subsequent phases, how we decide the design fee. We worked out most of them, so she sent back her language. They should hopefully agree to it this week, and we should have a contract signed by the end of the week, hopefully.
With an estimated time for 12 weeks?
Yeah, 8 to 12 weeks.
8 to 12 weeks.
Okay, and this is the facilities needs.
Correct.
Yeah, the space needs.
The space needs study.
Now, are they going to look at any potential other properties? I mean, we know Indian Hill's going to be coming up. Deck sitting there in the middle of the town, vacant now. Does that play into any of this planning or thought process, or?
We only have $50,000, so we're very limited on funds.
Okay.
What we're gonna get primarily out of this is going to be what we need for physical space, with a caveat of a couple options for this campus.
Okay.
So you should be able to, like, read between the lines, kind of almost, where they will tell you how much space you actually need and how much you can get out of a campus here. We don't have it specifically written to look at outside facilities, and it's purely financial. We just don't have the funds in the project to do it.
Okay.
We can certainly use the results of the study to engage in it would need to be a competitive procurement process if we were going to go to the level of acquiring office space. That's not something that we can do by just going to a property owner and making a deal. We can do that for open space under a uniqueness exemption. The Inspector General's office will not allow a municipality to do that for office space. But you could scope out what locations you need. Does it have to be near other amenities? You can prepare those specifics.
Point to that
and this-
structure.
And this study will certainly inform that process, what could be a request for proposals process, which we would manage internally.
Okay, so if Indian Hill comes up in 2 years and we have a need for it, we don't just go to Indian Hill and buy it from them. We have to go through some
You have to go
rigorous
through a
process.
process, but you could say that you want to acquire property that's adjacent to the high school, not to get too, specific about it, but, I mean,
And
there are.
across the street from
you-
the
you
veterinary
could-
hospital.
Well, yeah, you went across the street from Dunkin' Donuts.
That doesn't really
That takes in a
limit
lot
much.
of, a lot of options.
Yeah, we got a lot of Dunkin' Donuts
But,
around.
but there are certainly parameters that you can come up with. And we went through this competitive process, the fire chief's here, we went through that. There was some, for the temporary quarters for the fire station, that in the end, we had to make a competitive procurement, but leading up to that, and prior to the point where you put an RFP out on the street, you're allowed to do fact gathering of what's out there, and so the chief put together a bid spec based on what he needed, but knowing that we'd have at least one proposal that from a piece of property that we could observe. So
our RFQ could be for a building of 20,463 feet.
No, we would have to be.
A little more.
We'd have to be careful. Yeah, and the main reason is because office space is viewed as something that is generally available, and you can't be too specific about what you want. Office space, the purpose is to, even if you only know that there's one property available, you still have to put it out competitively because the market may produce other options for you.
So, not that I'm suggesting this, but if again, Indian Hill came up and it looked like a good place for the COA, doesn't necessarily fit the office space kind of, I mean, are there round edges to this square question, right, I guess?
We will be guided by the advice of our legal counsel.
All right. I got you.
Take the high road there.
Navigate those waters.
Pending litigation and all that stuff, right?
Right.
I can't comment.
Great. Any other questions?
Don't
on
make
the,
us build a senior center out of that.
Just the only question I had on the space needs, is this a snapshot in time? Or is this taking into account a little bit of the future?
No, they usually project
Future growth.
20-year growth
It is,
typically.
okay. I
Yeah,
just wanted to-
it typically is 20 years.
So part of that would be if the library gets the grant, and if the library doesn't get the grant, it's two different.
Those are two of the specific scenarios that we're aware of, that if there were a library in the backyard,
In the future, right.
then looking at how to reallocate the space here is certainly something to look at. And if there's not a library there, then what the other options are, including finding, other sites.
Okay. Good. Any other questions or thoughts? Okay. Our next one is public input, and we actually have a public here tonight that appears to be packing up and leaving.
Think of it as public output.
All right, thank you guys for
Thank
coming
you.
out tonight. Chief? Yep.
I just wanted to kind of put on the radar, budget-wise, we are on budget this year. With this last month, if we have one significant incident, it will be close to potentially requesting a transfer, just from expenses back into payroll.
So he could
Is that
name
good
all the
news or
minutes out
bad
the
news?
Are we talking about people expenses, equipment expenses, building expenses, what?
Payroll expenses.
So no fires.
So, right, if there's no fire, there's no significant incidents,
You behave yourself.
we will be fine. But,
Let it burn.
The chief thinks he can handle it within his own operating budget, out of the
Exactly.
expenses.
We're talking
So
27.
he's running low on expenses and would cover.
Yep.
That's just finishing out
the
this
transfer.
fiscal year.
Yes, but it will require both, you know.
That transfer at the end, right, okay.
Well, that's why we saved the money, because we know he was gonna come in, you know, so.
Right.
It's within my
It's
own
gonna be
funds.
from his expense to his salary line.
Yep, not requesting additional.
No,
But just
seriously,
wanted to put
We like
that on-
that.
just wanted to put that on the radar.
yeah, no, thanks for the heads up, it's good to know that we might expect. Okay, member updates, just go around the table. Gary, maybe?
Geez, when did we last meet? I'm trying to think.
Well, first of all, my condolences for being reappointed.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Would you let me know who the personnel?
He will be.
Gary will be.
He doesn't know it yet, but he will be.
Okay, all right. So like 8:30 on Thursday?
But I'll be there Thursday.
Oh, you'll be there, okay, all right. perfect.
Just next fiscal year, I guess, is the
Thank you.
They can definitely.
And just, since we last met, Greg and I went to the ATFC, I'll probably bring it up as well, seminar in Bolton. Once again, very informational, some best practices, some of the same players we've seen in some of the other meetings, giving some of the familiar presentations. So, but it was a good opportunity to kind of share some knowledge, some things that are working for us, and kind of get some ideas. The meeting was from a town, what was the smallest town there?
Oh,
Tiny.
yeah, tiny, out west, like less than a $5 million budget,
Yeah,
annual budget.
all the way up to, when you're big Arlington, like we see at some of the other meetings, so.
That was their yearly boondoggle to come in here.
So, no, a good meeting, and we can.
Okay.
Yeah, it was good. I think what I took away from it was that, they had spoken about some of the things that we'd seen at the fall meeting, but it just made me realize how well run, and so, pat on your back, Bonnie, how well run our town is. Because a lot of the things that they suggest, we're already doing.
Yeah, it was very surprising that I'm not surprised, but, it was just that I thought that more towns were kind of on the ball with a lot of things that they're not. Some of the information was so new to them that it just kind of took me off guard a little bit, that they weren't already doing some of the things that we do.
Okay. That's it?
Yeah, that's,
I have anything?
no, it's fine, we both went, so.
After 20 years as member of the Personnel Board, I'm going to be asked to step back. And someone else from the board become the representative.
Okay,
Thank you for your service.
absolutely. Done a hell of a job.
20
I
years.
tell you,
It's a long time.
I deserve a medal.
You get an attaboy from me.
Thank you. That's more than I got from the Army.
Was that all from FINCOM
Yes,
appointed?
here's,
20 years of FINCOM?
no, I had a previous tour in the late 80s,
Oh, okay.
early 90s.
Yeah.
Then the Personnel Board became defunct for some 10 years or so, and then gin back up.
Okay, well, thank you for your service, certainly.
Right.
Good job. All righty. And let's see, have board reorganization. Traditionally, what we've done is have the vice chair ascend to chair. It's not written in stone, but that's been our practice. Open for nominations for the chair for next year.
I nominate Greg.
nomination?
I have a second.
Before you guys second and finalize, I just want to say a couple things. First of all, thank you, I'm humbled, very humbled by the appointment, or the motion to appoint. As you folks know, I had some issues early on in the year, this year, with attendance. My job changed slightly, and I was taking on some pretty significant projects. A lot of those projects have subsided, and my schedule's lightened up quite a bit. So I feel as though I'm pretty confident we can make this work. And so I just want to make sure you folks know that I'm committed to it, to do it, and I appreciate the offer to appoint.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second, so let's vote quickly before we decide to change his mind. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I'm not voting, I'm abstaining.
Unanimous. All right. So I guess I'll turn it over to you.
No, you stay, you stay. This is effective, the next meeting.
There you go.
You finish up the meeting.
All right.
You're doing such a good job.
All righty. Next appointment or election would be for vice chair.
Aha. I nominate Gary Wilson as vice chair.
I'll second that.
All right, have any other nominations? Hearing none, we have a nomination and a second for Gary for vice chair. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That's unanimous.
Thank you.
And for secretary, Tom Burrell is our present secretary, and seeing how he's not here to defend
I
himself.
nominate Tom.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Teach him to miss a meeting.
All right, I have a motion and a
I'll have fun
second
with
to nominate Tom Perrell as secretary of the FinCom. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Congratulations, Tom. Okay. And we
You're not
have...
going anywhere, right?
Pardon?
You're not going anywhere, right?
Has everyone been reappointed that's supposed to be reappointed this year?
Yeah, he was the only one up.
Oh, you're the only one up this year?
Yeah, it was Selectman Glavy.
I was up.
Alan was earlier.
Oh, you already
He's the
got
only one left.
reappointed? Okay.
That's, I requested that FinCom appointment be last night in the cycle so that we could do this tonight.
Makes sense.
Okay.
Okay.
And we have an appointment of FinCom member to the Personnel Board, because Alan's bailing out on us.
Short time.
We have a motion.
You want to make it?
Do we have a volunteer at the end of the table?
You do. It's, I think it's definitely in my wheelhouse as far as what I do in my private life, so.
All right.
Do we have a motion?
I nominate Gary.
I'll
Second?
that.
Okay, we have a
Thank you.
nomination and a second to appoint Gary Wilson, FinCom member to the Personnel Board. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. Congratulations, Gary. Thank you. I didn't bring the minutes, so we'll try to get this meeting and last meetings done next time. For the ever-popular motion to adjourn.
So move it.
Moved.
Second.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, we're out of here. Flip this way.